So this class we will see about economics, subject economics, chapter number 4, consumption and investment functions. So in this chapter we will discuss about 6 important topics, namely concept of investment function, psychological law of consumption, investment functions, meaning of multiplier and its workings, accelerator, what do you mean by accelerator and how it is working, and what is super multiplier and its working. These are the 6 important major topics we will discuss in this chapter. So there are a number of other subtopics also be there. So the major topics are these 6 topics. First one, 4.1, introduction about the consumption and the investment functions. So in the second chapter, the national income, we will discuss about the concept of national income, measurement of national income, importance of national income, methods are used in the national calculation of national income, and what are the difficulties of the calculation of national income. This and all we discussed in chapter number 2. So this chapter discussed about 2 important functions, namely consumption function and the investment functions. Why I am telling this consumption function and the investment functions are the influencing factor in the calculation of national income, because the national income includes both the consumption goods as well as investment goods. So the calculation of national income, 2 important influencing factors are the consumption function as well as investment functions. So the primary object of study about the macroeconomics, the primary object of the study of macroeconomics is to accelerate the growth of national income, how to improve or how to increase the growth of national income. That is, acceleration of national income is the main important purpose of the study of macroeconomics. The national income comprises of both consumer goods as well as investment goods. So the close relationship between the consumption as well as investments with the national income. There is a close relationship between the income, consumption and to national income. So this is an introduction about the consumption and the investment functions. Number 2, consumption function. What is meant by consumption function? So consumption function is a function which is relationship between the consumption as well as income. The relationship between the consumption as well as the investments. It is also an increasing function. Consumption function is also an increasing function. Why? Because when the consumption, when income increases, then consumption also increases. So the consumption level or the level of consumption depends upon the level of income received by the consumer. That is why we may say that consumption function is an increasing function. And consumption function is also a functional relationship. There is a close relationship between the consumption and the income, because the consumption is one of the variable and the income is another variable. Consumption is a dependent variable, whereas income is a independent variable, because depends upon the consumption, depends upon the income, the consumption may be increased or decreased. So suppose if the income increases, the consumption also increases. If the income decreases, automatically the consumption also decreases. That is why consumption is a dependent variable and the income is an independent variable. The consumption function may be, say like this: C equal to F into Y. C is the consumption, F is the function, then Y refers to income of the consumer. So the consumption function is the relationship between the consumption and the income. Consumption is a dependent variable and income is an independent variable. So here is some schedule, the relationship between the income and the consumption. So when income is 0, the consumption is 20. That is amount in rupees. Savings rupees minus 20. Income 60, but the consumption level is 70. Saving is minus 10. Then income 120, consumption is also 120, no savings. When income 180, consumption 170, saving is 10 rupees. 240 income, 220 consumption, 20 saving. 300 income, 270 consumption, 30 saving. 360 income, 320 consumption and 40 saving. So when there is no income, the consumption is 20 and the saving is minus 20. How it is possible means even though there is no income, so it is in order to live, the consumer wants to use the past savings. It is amount from the past savings. In order to live, they have to get the income from the past savings. So that is the 0 and the consumption 20 and savings minus 20. So when the income is 120, consumption is 120, saving is 0. After that, the income is increases. The consumption also increases, but not up to the level of income. For example, if the income 180, 170 only consumption, remaining 10 rupees savings. And 240 income, 220 consumption. Here also increased. Income is also increased, consumption also increased, but not up to the level of income because the saving also increased. So income, savings increased 10, 20, 30 like this because the consumption is not increased up to the level of income, or the consumption is not increased as the income increases. So this is the psychological law of consumption. We will see in the next topic. JM means psychological law of consumption. This law will be explained. This concept will be explained. Suppose if you take C equal to 100 plus 0.8y. So when income is 0, C equal to, that is consumption equal to 100 plus 0.8 into 0. This is y. So in the place of y, we have to put the income 0. Here 100 rupees income, then income is 100. Now the consumption is rupees 180. Suppose income is 200, the consumption will be 260 when using of MPC, marginal propensity consumed. MPC refers to marginal propensity, PROPENSITY, propensity. So propensity means the habit of behavior on a particular way. Habit of behavior on a particular way, which is known as propensity. So when the income is 200, the consumption will be 100 plus 0.8 into 200, 260. So MPC equal to delta C by delta Y. So delta C means changing in the consumption and changing in the income. MPC can be calculated changing in the consumption by changing in income. Right. This from the schedule we have to draw a diagram like this. So income. So x-axis mentioned about the level of income of the consumer, whereas y-axis refers to the level of consumption by the consumer. The level of consumption is mentioned in the y-axis and the level of income of the consumer is mentioned in the x-axis. This is horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So the 45-degree line, so here is a 45-degree angle line. It indicates the consumption is equal to, the consumption as well as income is equal to at all levels of income and the consumption. At all levels of income. The 45-degree levels of the linear line indicates the consumption and the income is equal at all levels. Whether it is the income is increases 120, whether the income is 180 and 240, whatever it may be the level of income, and whatever it may be the consumption, it is equal. Consumption always equal to income. Here and this C line refers to consumption line refers to here this point refers to B. B means the consumption and the income is equal. Then assumption is when the income increases, the consumption also increases. It is an assumption of the psychological consumer law. Assumption changes the consumer as a consumption level of consumption with the level of income. When the income increases and the level of consumption also be increased, it is an assumption according to J.Keynes law. When the income and the consumption is zero, and this point indicates zero saving line. This line also say that zero saving line. C equal to Y. There is no savings. That is why this line, the 45-degree linear line, explaining about the zero saving line. Then the line C, that the linear line C indicates the division of income between the consumption and the savings. The division of income between the savings and the consumption. This line expresses about the consumption and the savings. So when the gap increases, the savings also increased. So here is no saving line, no saving point, and the level of the amount of savings going to started or is going to increase. So the gap between these two lines, which is known as savings. The gap between these two lines mentioned about the savings. So in this point no saving. Gradually the amount of saving goes on increasing. The gap between the C and this 45-degree linear line. So indicate about the savings and the consumption. This line about the consumption and the savings. So this is a brief concept of the consumption function. 4.2 consumption function. So you have to draw a table like this first of all. So that's nothing too difficult. You start from 0, adding by 60, 120, 180, 240, 300 and 360. And the consumption also increasing by 50. 20, start from 20 and 70, 120, 170, 220, 270 like this. So you may subtract from this one from this one. 0 to 20 minus 20, 60 minus 70 minus 10, 120 minus 120 0, 180 minus 170 10 like this. So based on the here increases by 60 rupees and here increases by 50 rupees. So you may calculate from this consumption and the income. So based on this schedule and table, you may draw a diagram like this. This diagram mentions about the relationship between the consumption and the investment. I repeat once again. The x-axis mentioned about the level of income. Y-axis refers to the level of consumption. The 45-degree angle explain about the consumption is equal to income at all levels of income. The consumption and income are at all levels. The assumption is when the consumption is changing means the same level of income. When the income changes, the same level of consumption also changing. Then this line mentioned about the zero base line. When there is no income, the income and the consumption is equal. So this line is known as zero saving line. Whereas the C line mentioned about the division of income between the savings and the consumption. The difference between the two lines, these two lines mentioned about the savings of the consumers. When it goes on increasing, this line, the gap between this line and this line will be the amount of saving. So with the rate of the consumption function.